All right, so you freedom-loving boys and girls. Hey, Mark Centerline. This video is going to be on the 1.5-inch concealment belt we make for Black Scout survival. And after I demonstrate the concealment belt, if you don't want the concealment option, it's the same belt that we make, our 1.5 EDC belt. So I'm going to spend most of the time talking about the history, the story behind the concealment belt, give you a little demonstration, show you why it actually is really more about how the idea came to fruition. And then hopefully give you a little bit more info that answers some questions. So, but I've got a couple little toys I'm playing with, and just full disclosure, this is the second time shooting the video because I was doing test videos. I'm trying to figure out I got multiple cameras, and I don't know, something wasn't working, and I just shot this video and realized, oh yeah, that was still the crappy video with me trying to figure stuff out like a knucklehead. So let me do a couple things here, which I'm finding works better for me. I hope it's okay for you guys. So it shouldn't have changed the view for you. For me, the view is different now, so I can actually see. I don't see all the bells and whistles. I can see more of what we're talking about. All right, the concealment belt, right? So it's our normal everyday carry belt, right, that we make over on, and I'll do more zoom in and stuff like that, but I just want you to see it. Now, those red, you can see one right there, and you can see one right there. Those are the deployment tabs for the belt. They don't come in red. Like those deployment tabs mirror the color of your belt because you want to be concealed from far scrutiny, and I'll dive into that in a second. But the belt itself, I just want to start here. First and foremost, this is 2 layers of what's called 55301. So all the things we use at Centerline Systems, mil-spec, very compliant, made in the United States. So this is an outer layer and an inner layer of what's called 55301. That's a true mil-spec webbing. Somebody says, oh yeah, it's all mil-spec. Well, what designator is it? It's mil-spec. That isn't how it works. That person's shining you on. And then, so that's 2 layers of 55301 over a layer of 500575, commonly called scuba webbing. So the reason we made the belt this way is because, it's a concealment belt for that surreptitious lock picking, keeping, a copy of your passport, $100 bill, spare house key. Again, I'll get into that in a couple seconds. It's not really a loadout video, but not only that, but you might be concealed carry, right? Or you might be open carry, or you carry eyeglasses or toolkits or a med kit. So you wanted a belt. And if you go back, and I've got a rigger's belt from my day back being a cool guy someplace, and that belt it not only had the rigidity north-south, it had the rigidity east-west. It was like wearing a steel band around your body. Well, this is an everyday carry belt. So on this, the circular, the east-west, you've got nice flexibility and comfort. I've got a picture of me someplace wearing a really nice suit with one of these belts on. I mean, so you can wear it casual. What did I say? Casual, practical, and tactical is what I used to say about the belts. Still true. I just don't say that corny line anymore. But it's really comfortable around your waist on the east-west. It's got a lot of movement. But on the north-south, which is important if you're carrying gear, if you're everyday carry, if you carry a weapon, spare mags, things like that, you want the north-south rigidity to be really strong. And I've done this before, where I've held items up in here, but, I'm going to just see, look, I'm squeezing it. There, I finally got it to bend just a little bit. You might be able to see it. See that? There was just a little pucker right there for a second. It's got great north-south rigidity, and that's what you want for draw stroke, carrying your, keeping your equipment, so your belt doesn't sag. And, no offense to leather belts, but I'm sure if you've had a leather belt, over time, you start getting these little indentations in it, because of the weight and whatnot. So north-south rigidity, really good. That's where you want it to be. The east-west, nice and flexible, and it can look casual. Wear it with blue jeans, doesn't cause you to draw any attention. Wear it with dress clothes, or wear it from a tactical aspect. And I got to remember to come up with a customer story at the very end. Yeah, Chip, you know who you are. I'm gonna not dime you out, but I'm gonna talk about Chip here at the end. But back to the belt itself. So years ago, when Jack reached out to me, I'm sorry, one other thing. So, and then the front, there you can see it. That's the Austria Alpine Cobra buckle, right? That is a great buckle. It's very compliant. Austria Alpine, obviously made in Austria. There are some other buckles out there. No offense to anybody. I mean it seriously. If American company makes a better buckle than this, I'll switch to American company. But But this is like an incredible buckle. It's ANSI rated, the whole 9 yards, and that's it. So once you thread the belt tip through the male buckle, there's a tri-glide there. The Velcro here just really keeps the tip from flopping around. It has nothing to do with holding the belt in place. It's the tri-glide up in the buckle. So you weave your webbing through it, draw it tight, and then the rest of the day, that's what you're doing. Got to go to the bathroom? Boom, boom. You don't have to undo your whole belt. That would just open up, and then you can just clap it back together. I guess something I should address is, like, some people said, oh, but I want to be able to put my buckle all the way through, or, I don't know. I don't even know how to just answer that. You do you. I think that's why you see some belt companies do the 1.5 buckle down to a smaller male buckle, because I guess, you don't want to weave the belt tip through there. I don't know, but then you just got webbing on top of webbing and all these other issues. So to me, it's just like a regular belt. Weave your belt tip through. The Velcro just holds the belt tip in place. It doesn't have anything to do with the functionality of the belt other than that. And then you're using the Cobra buckle the rest of the day. All right, that's enough about the kind of just, the quality that we put in craftsmanship we put into it and the thought that went behind it, right? I have all kinds of belts. I've got great gun belts, great leather belts, and I love our belts, right? And so as a guy who's carried both open, and more DA, or, in the war zones, or who carries concealed, both holster, outside the waistband and inside the waistband. I'm not just plugging our product, but I make it because it's good. And if I didn't think it was good, I wouldn't be making it or selling it to you, because that's not how we do things. Go buy some cheap ass shit from China if that's what you want to do, or some American company that says it's made in America. Well, it might be sewn in America, but it's all, foreign made materials. We don't do that. So back to the real origin story, and then I'm going to give a demonstration. So I'm just going to twist the belt inside out. All right. And here, let me just try a neat other new little thing I'm kind of going with right now. Oop, there we go. Okay, there you go. So that's the rear concealment pocket. And then you can see the deployment tab that will deploy all the material out in a certain direction. And then no matter which hand you're using, it's going to come into your hand. And then up front, I always go a little bit. You always forget it's upside, or it's backwards, so there you go. You like, oh, turn it this way. No, it's the camera. You got to go the other direction. And then there's the front one. So when Jack reached out to me, let me pull out, you don't need to see my mug that close. Ooh, scary. But when Jack reached out to me years ago, and Jack's got a background in concealment and surreptitious entry as well. Mine comes from the agency. I've actually used clothing, whether it's belts, pants, jackets, the whole 9 yards, with concealment devices in those materials. And that was all designed for near scrutiny, as opposed to what we designed as far scrutiny. That's what you're kind of trying to beat. Near scrutiny is somebody could be wearing my clothes and not have any idea that there was devices and items hidden inside the clothing. So when Jack was reaching out to me about the belt, hey, let's make a belt. We just started talking about this. Hey, do we want far scrutiny, near scrutiny? Look, far scrutiny is a little bit better, because, if you got busted with it, somebody said, oh, what are you trying to hide? Well, I'm not trying to hide anything. You're looking right at it. Well, but it was on the inside of your belt. Well, yeah, but I don't want thieves and other people to see it. I want to, that's got my spare house key in there. That's got $100 or the copy of my passport in there. Right. So whereas you'll see some people talking about, oh, hide things under your skin and do this. Hey, boys and girls, you do you. But if you're in a foreign country, and if it's a shitty foreign country and you're busted with things under your skin, they're going to assume you're an intelligence officer. They just will. And depending on that country, you might be there for a long time before the State Department, even thinks about trying to get you out, or even knows that you've been, rolled up. And during that time, that in between time, all kinds of horrendous, evil things can happen to you. And I don't want to get too dark, but one of the other reasons here, I'll just jump into it. So as we were talking about far scrutiny, near scrutiny, then we were also talking about, hey, look, this is a real thing. Like, what if you get, kidnapped or thrown in the trunk, or because kidnapped for ransom is a real thing, and look, I don't know what's going on. So what is today, the 12th or 11th? But, there's that high visibility, the mother of some newscaster, and I don't know who it is, so excuse me if I'm getting the story wrong, but she was apparently taken hostage maybe, but she's disappeared. And now there's, evidence coming out that some armed masked intruder may have broken into the house and, and kidnapped her. So on that note, if, you know, I've never been kidnapped. You know, many of you have gone through that type of training, SEER school, you know, just think about that kind of stuff. But I know that if I was evil and the places where I operated, there was lots of evil people there. I knew the reality of my chances. You know, if I didn't manage self-rescue or, you know, escape, you know, or, if I didn't persevere in those first minutes while I'm maybe in the trunk of a car or in the back of a van where people aren't paying attention to me, that, but, you know, in this case, with this poor, unfortunate circumstances, you know, do you have that, you know, hey, I've got 5 minutes, you know, I've got to be able to get out of these zip ties or these handcuffs or whatever it is that I'm trying to do. So you got to really think about it. And that's what Jack and I were doing when we put this together. So if you were tied or, you know, constrained up front or constrained in back, you wanted to have a pocket in both places, and you wanted to be able to access the pocket, you know, with either, you know, your right hand or your left hand, you know, on the belt, you know, and the same thing in the backside. And, you know, and for some people it deploys correctly. And for other people, like, oh, I'm right-handed or I'm left-handed, I wish it was the other way around. We'll get into that habit of practicing and learning it. And so, because as the tab deploys, and that's the whole point here, I'm going to zoom in again. There we go. But so as you know, you're reaching back here, see, always backwards. As you're reaching back here and you're feeling it, right? You know, like that's all it is. So it's a small little, there it is. I got it right now. I'm trying to get my fingers on it. And all this is this webbing goes all the way down to the end. It's sewn and then it loops back on itself. So no matter what, as you're pulling it out, and you're going to see here in a second, that fell out. I got a little scared. I just had tucked a little P38 up inside of here, but that's what it's designed for. A key. Jack's got pictures of small pieces of silver, platinum, gold, you know, $100 bill, you know, SD card, a micro SD card. It's something of that nature that you want to have in there that's concealed and you can always access. And as you're pulling that out, you know, again, and I'm doing this all backwards and everything. So don't like, oh, Mark, it fell. Yeah, I know it fell because I'm trying to do this and look at all these other things. But so there it is. Again, this material normally isn't red. It'll be the color of your belt. Now to load it, and then again, it's the same on the front side. Yeah, see, I always just did it again. And it's the same on the front side, right? You'll be able to feel that little tab in your hand, right? And then, you know, as you just start pulling it out, you can just do it slow. That's what you would do in real life. And then you would just be feeding it out. And then the item would just fall into your hand. And then there's your other tab. Oh, okay. Let me just back up a sec. Get a little bit away from me. So then the last thing I kind of want to show on this, again, if this is what you're into, this is a great belt, and it's based on real world experience. I have used belts, jackets, pants, shirts, you know, a wide variety of clothing with far, you know, near scrutiny concealments built into them. And that's not the purpose of the video, but that's the personal experience, Jack's experience and my experience coming together to make this product. Now to load this up, I recommend just use a butter knife. Use something that's really thin and it's rounded. Because if you use a sharp knife, well, a sharp knife is pokey. And that, you know, you're just going to end up poking through the material. And all you have to do is you just start feeding it back through there. Yeah, hopefully this will, I'll do it this way. I think that'll show up a little bit more. And then you just kind of feed it back through. And now I'm at the halfway point. This is the part that's going to go over. So this is going to start folding over on itself as I'm shoving this in right now. And there's a couple different ways you want to do it. If you got something nice and flat, you should be able to see that. I can still get in here and feed it and then, you know, have that item between me and the knife, or just get it all the way in like that. And then take your item. I'll just do it again for the sake of the video. This is all I did last time. And then I just took my item, started feeding it in there. And now it's in. And I could have a bunch of different items in there as well. So that one actually was a bad example because it's a P38 can opener and it's got sharp edges and all that stuff. There you go. Now I got it. I just had to get it over the ridge of the stitching right there. And then you can just kind of slide it right back in there with your knife and just tuck it in there. Right now I've got it halfway in. I'm not going to go any further for the sake of the video. You get the point, you know, and then again, same thing on the front side. maybe this will work out a little bit better so you can see it. I'll do it like this, and I'm just take my time and just slowly start working it back in there. Once it starts going, then there it starts going. And now it's just, add a little bit, add a little bit, add a little bit, add a little bit. Don't be super aggressive because, you don't want to cut that material. And that's why I recommend something rounded like a butter knife. Add a little bit, add a little bit. And then now there's still room in there. So like I said, so I could, work my $100 bill in there. I could have my $100 bill on that material and then just have the knife on top of the $100 bill as I was feeding it back, right? So that's how it works. It's good for far scrutiny, left or right-handed, front of your body or the rear of your body. Now, if concealment devices, if that's not your gig, right? If that's not what you're interested in, this is the same belt as our 1.5 EDC belt, right? The only difference is the concealment pockets, right? Is that. So if you don't like, I don't need that. That's a little too wazoo, too little James Bond secret squirrel for me. Yep, fine. And I hear you. Like I said, I don't do that life anymore. And if I was doing that life, I'd be doing it for real like I used to. And I would be more concerned about near scrutiny, not far scrutiny. But, for the average person, and if you're in a, well, I don't know how you want to say it. I mean, trying to be polite, but if you're in like in a, and not restricted, like, you're breaking into some place, but if you're in an area where, hey, there could be trouble and this is a little sketchy, then these are things that you do want to have with you. Copy of your passport, spare money, in case somebody takes your wallet, you still got $100 to get home, spare house key. I had to give up my keys or I lost my keys. Okay, well, I got a spare house key. If you're one of the people like me who still uses keys as opposed to everything electronic and push button, or it's slave to your phone so your phone can open it and everything. So for that kind of, it can be as easy as that. Hey, here's another example. Put a couple quarters in there. I don't know if there's cities that still use quartered, change parking meters. Almost everything's all electronic nowadays, but, it doesn't hurt to have a couple quarters, or, a gold Krugerrand, if that's how you want to roll, right? Or a blood chit. I was only joking about the gold, kind of half joking, because having a little piece of gold or a blood chit or a, $100 bill, a couple $100 bills. I mean, that can get you out of a lot of, bad circumstances in a lot of parts of the world, right? Flash a blood chit or a $100 bill. Somebody's probably going to give you their car, help you out. So just think about that. Last comment I want to make here. What are we at? 18 minutes. Yeah, this is going to be a longer one, but it needs to be. So you got a chiseled belt tip. 2 comments. Let me zoom in here again. So on the belt tip, now right here, I chisel cut that belt tip. There you go. Now you can see it. So that makes it easy for you to get it into your pant loops, right? As you're weaving it through, it's easy to get into the tri-glide because you come in through the tri-glide, loop around back through the tri-glide. That makes a bite. So like right now, this is just a bite. This webbing is pinched around a bar that's in here. And then as it's going this way, that bar tightens up and the webbing doesn't come out. And then that Velcro is just there to help keep that tip from flopping around. But we don't even really need to use the Velcro if we didn't want to, but I think people would find it weird because that's what your pant loops are for, right? Your belt loops on your pants. It's for managing the tip of your belt. I know, crazy, but you'd be surprised. And that's actually going to bring me into my final comment. Had a gentleman named Chip. Chip, God bless you. Double D, double dog. Ooh, I couldn't do it. Let me try it again. Ooh, something like that. I wasn't a Marine. Don't hold it against me. But reached out to me. He had purchased the belt. I don't want to say, it's not my place to say too much, but his background, but let's just say this, the guy's been doing things for a long time. Law enforcement, I'll just kind of say it that way. Law enforcement, still has, affiliations in that world. And he carries every day, right? Spare mags, handgun, the whole 9 yards. At first, and he's used to rigger belts and, how those work. So he was a little unsure of that buckle at first, according to him. He was just unsure how this was going to work. Go see, he just left a great review on the website. But the point is like, don't be afraid. It might be slightly different from the standard belt, because the standard belt, this would just be a buckle. The belt loops goes through it and you got the little, tooth thing that pokes through the holes, right? So he's like, oh, I wonder how that's going to work with this, and this. Finally pulled the trigger and just came back. So I'm bringing it up because you don't know what you don't know. Even if you've got a lot of background and experience, you just don't know what you don't know. And one of his comments was, well, the craftsmanship and the quality of the material, yeah, that's Cindy and made in America. But, if you don't know the Austria Alpine buckle, he was like, well, I'm not just sure how that's going to work. But then once he realized that that's how it's literally like that. And again, you think if you're carrying, depending on your belt, you're taking the whole belt off and all your stuff. Nope. With this, it's boom. And the belt is still all the way around your waist through all your pant loops. All of your equipment, everything is still secure. Great north-south rigidity, like I said, and then you're just coming back in it, right? So, you don't know what you don't know, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you got questions, reach out, give me a holler. I'll help you out as best I can. But if you want to go and just look at go to the website, go to the EDC Belt, the 1.5, and you can see the reviews and just read the review. I thought it was a great review. I think everybody's left great reviews, but what I really like about it is, this individual comes from a very specific background with a very specific skill set, type of thing, and an experience. And that was kind of new to him. And, I'm a little hesitant. And then once he had it in his hands and was able to run it through and figure it out, he was like, oh yeah, this is, the bee's knees. So that's one of the reasons also I wanted to do the video. I love this belt that we made for Jack over at Black Scout, the concealment devices that are in there, for far scrutiny, that was just, again, a great thing. When Jack reached out to me, I was like, oh, hell yeah. I've done this for real. I want to make something like that on my own. And then just all the way to, and then leaving the agency, leaving the military, just being a, dirty civilian, but I carry all the time. I carry concealed. So I, belts, and actually the reason we made this belt is I wasn't even going to be a gear company. When I left the agency, I was going to be a training company. And I'm like, I can't find a belt out there that I like. So I, ended up making this belt. And that's kind of how Centerline Systems started, was like on the gear side. It was like, hey, that's a damn good belt. But I wanted to have a belt that I could sell students, something I believed in. And I really do. I think you're going to really love it. Great comfort. No joke, American mil-spec materials, very compliant on the Cobra buckle. And I apologize. Shouldn't have to apologize, because I mean no offense. There's an American company out there, and I know that, and believe me, I know. I've bought the buckles. I personally am going to stick with Austria Alpine until something better comes along, right? So and until then, Austria Alpine, 55301 500 the concealment pockets for those who want the concealment belt. Get those over at Black Scout Survival. If you just want a good solid belt, even if it's just to carry your gear at work, maybe you've got flashlights, hammers, small tool kits on that you're carrying on your body, a med kit, whatever. You still want something that's got that rigidity so your gear isn't sagging and falling down. Because on that handgun, on that draw stroke specifically, if you've got a spaghetti noodle of the belt, well, now you're not only are you trying to break the holster with your weapon, and I don't mean snap it, the holster, the weapon's breaking the holster. Well, on that upward movement, if the belt's just traveling with it and the holster and the belt are just doing this little tango, well, that's going to slow you down and impede things, right? You want a nice, clean draw stroke and present every time. So, and if you're working in, I don't want to say, again, denied areas, high threat areas, medium threat areas, however you define that. I don't know that. That's up to you. But, it would be a great thing to have, to know that you had an extra copy of your passport, or some extra money, or that SD card that you just couldn't lose, or, some quarters, or looking on the surreptitious entry thing, I'm just going to end it on that. Oh, that lock picking is BS. The hell it is. Since I don't even know how many times, but I have helped friends get back inside their house, or people get into their cars with the things that I was trained with in the agency, and then with having those tools and those capabilities. So it's just another great tool to have in your toolkit, period. Oh, I can't remember the combination of that lock, or I lost the key. Pick it. There's a couple different ways to do it. Learn how to do it. Pick it. There he is. Now you can get back into it, or you better have a good set of bolt cutters, right? Or something like that. So, all right. I think I've kind of, belabored that enough. We're about 25 minutes. Hopefully the zooming in. Oh, Wasn't too much. Neat little new toy I'm just trying out. Seriously, I love the belts. Huge shout out to Jack for reaching out to me, and wanting to do business with me so many years ago and coming me to that with that idea, and really proud of that product. I've had one or two people yell at us saying, oh, that's, unless you were the guy who did that gear for me in the agency, no, ain't nobody copying your crap or whatever. So put those shenanigans aside too, right? So, and besides, most of the concealment belts out there, it's just, they just have a little pocket sleevey thing that they're doing, right? It's not a, that's kind of more closely related to what I used to have. So that was kind of where that's coming from. It's like, okay, let me find a way to do this, that I can do it on the civilian side. So, all right, boys and girls, that's going to do it. I really appreciate it. Again, I should have said, so if you don't want the concealment, you can be at my website and just get one of our EDC belts. Those are the 1.5s. I'll talk about the EDCP and the Sherpa another time. Those are 1.75 inch belts. But for the 1.5 inch belt, my EDC belt, or if you want the concealment pockets, if you see the utility and the benefit of having that, it's a combat multiplier. Get those over at Black Scout Survival. I've got a little tab on my website. If you don't know how to type in Black Scout Survival and find it on the internet, I've got a tab that says BSS gear on my website, and it's got a link to all these things over on his website as well. Holler if you got any questions, boys and girls. Let me minimize my screen. I don't need it that large anymore. Again, I apologize if things are a little bit weird. I'm trying out some new devices. Hopefully it makes it a better experience for all you guys. Leave me a comment. Tell me, hey, I didn't mind the Zoom. Or Mark, when was the last time you shaved, or whatever? I don't know. But leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Holler if you got any questions. And as always, you know the deal. Keep thinking. Keep moving. Never quit. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Be good. Thanks.